Interpreting simple bar and line graphs and what the examiners are looking for. So this is a simple bar graph. It's showing on the y-axis number of people and how they travelled to a particular place. Always pick out the highest figure you can see. So 26 people travelled by car, and the least popular, one person travelled by boat. But more than this, try to pick out some kind of mathematical sum that you can do to manipulate data. So for example, twice as many people travelled by motorbike than they did by bicycle. So 6 against 3. Or you could say that 3 times as many people travelled by foot than by boat. This is a more complex bar graph, but it's still a bar graph nonetheless. Let's have a look what it's showing you. The number of museum visitors over a period of time, 2007 to 2012, at these different galleries. And the years are on this axis here, and we've got the total in millions here. So again, try and pick out the general trend. And in this case, let's take a look at the National Gallery. So from 2007, we can see that the bars get greater. So the number of people visiting the National Gallery increases from about 6 million to 16 million. That's over double. And that phrase there, over double, shows that you are manipulating the data. Let's take the example of the British Museum. Started off at about sort of 12-13 million, and over the years it's fallen, but then has increased to about 14 million. At its lowest here, 6 million, it was half roughly what it was in 2007. So again, we've manipulated the data. Examiners are particularly looking for you to do this. This is a more complex bar graph. It's currently in the new GCSE Oxford textbook for geography, and this time it's showing the distribution of the world's urban population in 3 years, 1950, 07 and estimated 2050. You've got your 5-6 different regions around the world, but this time on the y-axis you've got percentage of the world's urban population. And the best way to approach this, to analyse it, is to look at the different years, 1950, 07 and 2050. Always try and pick out the highest. So in 1950, Europe had about 38% of the world's urban population lived there, and the lowest is Oceania, about 3%. In 2007, something happens in Europe. It's dropped down to 11%. Now, it doesn't mean that only 11% of people in Europe now live in an urban area. It's looking at the percentage of the whole world. So only 11% of the world's urban population you will find living somewhere in Europe. And this has happened probably because if we take a look what's going on in Africa, between 1950 and 07, the percentage the whole of the world's population has jumped in Africa. Similarly in Asia, probably due to in-migration, natural rate of increase also. So take care when you look at these kinds of graphs, especially when you've got the percentage on the y-axis. So here we are looking at line graphs. Line graphs show continuous data. And along the x-axis you usually have time, in this case year, or you could have distance. Examiners are looking for a change. Always give the data on the y-axis, and this is showing the number of visitors in Dubai between 1995 and 2010, and we can see there is a clear increase in numbers of visitors to Dubai. Remember, we need to manipulate the data. So we could say in 1995 there were just about 2 million people visiting Dubai. And by 2010, this had trebled to 6 million.